necessarily giant. There's also a Dominican connection to Fatima. First of all, the two children would suffer terribly, not only from the governments, from the ecclesiastical authorities quizzing them, that was kind of hard on them, but Jacinta and Francisco apparently got either seriously ill or had to be operated on and went through torture. And yet they did it all for Jesus. They tried to console Jesus, which was the custom of the time, still a mystical idea, by offering him their sufferings. Well, in about the 1945, 1946, their cause came up for the possibility of being declared venerable in Rome. And all of the consultors and all of the members of the congregation that deals with the issue of canonization, beatification, making people venerable, all of them said, children can't become saints unless they're martyred. But these two children weren't martyred, so we really shouldn't canonize them. We shouldn't be involved in this process. There were, however, two Dominicans who argued the contrary. Their names you wouldn't probably know. One of them was Father Lagrange, a very important theologian at the time, and taught at the Angelicum, gave lectures, quite outstanding lectures, in a room 3 times the size of this. When the bishops and the cardinals and the priests, etc., would all come in to the lecture hall to hear him lecture, everybody would bow to the cross, and they'd all sit down. And when he would come walking in with his habit, at a certain point, everybody would turn to him and bow to him, because they thought so highly of Garrigou. And then there was another Dominican father named Father Chiappi. He eventually went on to become the master of the Sacred Palace. And the master of the Sacred Palace has traditionally been a Dominican father since about 7 centuries, maybe 8 centuries. He's the Pope's theologian. In fact, today they call him the Pope's theologian. My student, Father Giertek, is presently the Pope's theologian, so I feel honored that he got that particular work. And Father Chiappi was also the dean of the theology faculty. In fact, he worked with John Paul II on his dissertation. Well, anyway, Father Chiappi, Father Garrigou Lagrange, they argued and argued that these two children should be declared venerable. They possessed what we call heroic virtue. Not our ordinary virtue, heroic virtue, extraordinary virtue, because of their willingness to suffer for sinners. It went on deaf ears. The congregation said, no, we're not going to beatify them. We're not declare them venerable. So basically the cause, went into that special file somewhere in the congregation, never to be heard of again, until John Paul II became Pope. And then it was revived, and eventually they were declared venerable, and now they're declared blessed, so that in Fatima they can actually have a mass in their honor, and people can pray to them. When you go to Fatima, you have to learn to appropriate the message, Fatima, which is quite full of doctrine. Doctrine concerning morals, doctrine concerning the rosary, doctrine concerning power, importance of not only Mary, but also, obviously, of Jesus and Joseph too. The whole purpose of the devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary is to become closer joined to Jesus. Blessed Virgin Mary isn't somehow the fourth person of the Blessed Trinity. That's heresy. She's not equal to God. She's a creature. That means as a creature, she was created out of nothing, as you and I are. As a creature, she's infinitely distant from God as a creature. By grace, however, she's the one closest to God, higher than all the angels combined. If we were to try to foolishly measure her love for God, it'd be like trying to measure a huge bonfire of all the saints and angels, of which among the angels there are billions of them, and there are millions of saints in heaven. Take all their charity, all their love of God, and combine it, and it's like combining a huge bonfire to the fire of the sun. That's how close Mary is by grace to God. That's why she was called the Queen of heaven and earth. That's why normally you'll see on many of her statues a crown, because she has a certain authority in heaven. Many of the popes have said, is it necessary to pray to Mary in order to be saved? Many theologians have answered, no, it's not absolutely necessary to pray to Mary to be saved. The good thief didn't pray to Mary. He was saved. But to try to follow Jesus Christ without Mary is like trying to fly without wings. Like going to Paris flapping your hands. You probably won't make it. And so the ordinary teaching of the theologians and the church is that Mary and a devotion to Mary is morally necessary in order to be saved. Morally necessary. Absolutely no. But relatively, yes. Because the Blessed Virgin Mary kind of makes up for our weaknesses and our sin. The Blessed Virgin Mary is our mother, and our queen in heaven after Christ the King. And she can intervene and bring graces to us that we can't bring to ourselves by our own merits and our own prayers. But she can. That's why we pray to her as our mother, as our queen, as our advocate,